All right, strap in everyone, because today we're going deep into the world of shipping glass bongs.
Careful. Don't want any breakage before we even start.
Haha, very true. But seriously, we've got a mountain of research here, articles, forum posts, even some patent filings.
Sounds intense.
It is. And our mission is to figure out how to get these delicate pieces from point A to point B in one piece.
Because, as anyone who's ever received a box of shattered dreams knows, it's not as simple as it sounds.
Exactly. You'd think it's just bubble wrap and a prayer, right? But there's a whole science to it.
It's as we're going to break down today.
Well, we're going to break it down, all right. And some of the stuff we found is wild. Like, did you know temperature swings can be just as dangerous as, say, a drop kick from a delivery driver?
Yeah, temperature is a huge factor. But even before we get into those specifics, let's address the obvious. Why is shipping glass bongs such a notorious challenge?
I mean, yeah, glass is fragile, we get that. But sometimes you get a dented box and the bong's fine. Other times, it's like the slightest bump turns it into dust.
Right. It's about more than just preventing the box from being crushed. It's about dampening any vibration. One article we found compared it to shipping a spider web made of crystal.
Okay, that's a pretty vivid image.
It is. Because those intricate designs, the thin glass, it doesn't take much to cause a fracture.
So it's not just about cushioning, it's about smart cushioning.
Exactly. And that's where those custom foam inserts you mentioned come in. Some are made of material that actually changes density on impact. So they're absorbing energy instead of transferring it to the bong.
Wow, okay, that's high tech. What else have we got in terms of protective measures?
Well, several sources pointed to double-walled boxes as the gold standard.
Double walled. Like, is that always necessary?
It's all about risk assessment. A heavy, simple beaker bong going the short distance, you might get away with a single wall and lots of padding.
Right, makes sense.
But anything delicate, traveling far, or with a high price tag, double
No.
walling becomes essential. It's like an insurance policy.
So it's a sliding scale of paranoia based on how fragile the piece is and how rough the journeys can be.
Pretty much.
But boxes and foam are just the first layer, right? What about actually securing the bong within the package? One forum thread talked about suspension packing. Sounded pretty intense.
Oh yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. Imagine suspending the bong in the center of the box using straps or cords so it's literally floating.
So even if the box gets dropped, the bong doesn't take the hit directly?
That's the idea. The impact energy gets absorbed by the suspension system instead, like those action movie stunts with wires.
Except instead of making the fall look dramatic, it's making it less dramatic for the bong.
Exactly. And then there's void fill. We're not talking just tossing in some packing peanuts here. Some experts use specific shapes and densities to lock the bong in place, prevent any shifting or rattling.
So it's like the bong is in its own little Zen garden, totally isolated from the chaos of shipping.
That's a great way to put it. But even the most peaceful Zen garden can be disrupted by, well, the weather.
Right, we can't forget about temperature and humidity.
Huge factors. Because even the best packing job can be ruined by extreme heat or freezing cold.
Because glass expands and contracts, right?
Exactly. A sudden temperature change can cause stress fractures, even if the box looks fine from the outside.
So it's not just about impact, it's about preventing the glass from weakening over time.
You got it. And that's where things get really interesting. Some high-end shippers are using something called phase change materials.
What's that? Like magic?
Sort of. Think of those ice packs you put in lunchboxes, but designed to maintain a specific temperature range for days.
So like a portable climate control system for your bong? That's wild. But what about humidity?
Ah, yes, humidity. One article mentioned desiccants, and not just those little silica gel packets you find in shoeboxes.
Oh, so like industrial strength moisture absorbers.
That's right. Special blends that absorb moisture without releasing anything harmful that could damage the bong. They come in all sorts of formats, sachets, sheets, even built-in container liners.
Okay, this is blowing my mind. I had no idea there was so much science involved in keeping a bong safe during shipping. But even with all these precautions, sometimes things go wrong. Which brings us to insurance.
Absolutely crucial, especially for high-value pieces. And
Mhm.
it's not just about protecting against damage, it's about peace of mind for both the buyer and the seller.
I can see that. But how do you decide if insurance is worth the cost?
Well, that's where it gets a bit tricky. It depends on the declared value of the bong, the shipping distance, the carrier's track record, even the time of year.
So many factors.
There are. Some businesses build insurance into their prices, others offer it as an add-on. It really depends.
Right, so it's not one size fits all. It's about weighing the risks and choosing the coverage that makes sense for each shipment.
Exactly. And speaking of risk, the final piece of this puzzle, and arguably the most important, is choosing the right shipping carrier.
Yeah, because handing your precious bong over to just any random delivery company, that's a recipe for disaster.
You need a carrier with experience handling fragile items, dedicated procedures, trained staff, maybe even specialized equipment.
Not just some guy chucking boxes into a truck.
Hopefully not. And this is where those online communities you mentioned come in handy. They track which carriers have the best and worst reputations for bong shipments.
Oh, that's smart. So it's like tapping into the collective wisdom of the bong community.
Exactly. It's crowdsourced knowledge about who to trust. But there are also those specialized services some carriers offer.
Things like declared value protection, signature confirmation, maybe even temperature-controlled transport. Are those worth the extra cost?
They can be. But again, it's about weighing the cost against the risk. A $50 bong going across town probably doesn't need the royal treatment.
Right, it's all about finding the right balance.
Exactly. And that's what makes this topic so interesting. It's not just about throwing a bong in a box and crossing your fingers.
It's a whole system.
A complex interplay of materials, techniques, and decisions, all working together to make sure that bong arrives safely.
And that's just what we've covered in part one. There's still so much more to unpack.
Oh yeah, we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But by understanding these fundamentals, we can start making smarter choices, both as senders and receivers.
And that's what the deep dive is all about, taking something seemingly simple and revealing all the hidden complexities behind it.
Exactly. Stay tuned as we continue our journey into the world of safe bong shipping. We'll be exploring even more advanced techniques, cutting-edge technologies, and even sustainable solutions.
This is way more interesting than I ever imagined. And for our listeners, stick around. We'll be right back with even more bong shipping secrets after a quick message.
Don't go anywhere.
And we're back, diving deeper into the world of safe bong shipping. We've covered packing materials, techniques, even insurance and carriers.
A lot to consider.
It is. But before we get too lost in the details, let's take a step back, look at the bigger picture.
Good point. Sometimes you got to zoom out to really see what's going on.
Right, because getting that bong from point A to point B in one piece, it's about more than just packing peanuts and prayers.
Exactly. Our sources talk about this idea of supply chain resilience.
Okay, now we're getting into serious logistics territory.
It's not just about individual shipments. It's about building a system that can handle anything. Imagine a snowstorm shuts down a shipping hub, or a pandemic throws everything off.
Oh, so it's like having backup plans, alternative routes, just in case something goes wrong.
Exactly. And it's not just reacting to crises, it's about anticipating them. Knowing summer heat waves can delay things, so maybe you use temperature-controlled trucks or overnight air freight.
It's like a game of chess, thinking several moves ahead, except your opponent is like Mother Nature and global events.
Perfect analogy. And just like in chess, the more you know, the better you can navigate those challenges.
So bong businesses need to think beyond just packing and shipping. They got to analyze the whole picture, those bigger trends that could impact their operations.
Exactly. Moving from reactive to proactive. Which brings us to another fascinating aspect, sustainability.
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this. One article mentioned mushroom packaging, and I gotta admit, I'm intrigued.
Mycelium packaging. It's a perfect example of how innovation can be good for the planet and good for protecting those bongs.
So it's literally made from mushrooms.
Well, the root structure, called mycelium, it's grown in molds using agricultural waste, so already a plus for sustainability, and then it forms this solid, lightweight material that's super shock absorbent.
So it's biodegradable A&D, custom shaped to protect the bong. Sounds almost too good to be true.
The research is promising. Studies show it can actually outperform traditional styrofoam in drop tests.
Wow, that's impressive. Makes you wonder what other sustainable options are out there.
Tons. We're seeing bio-based plastics, compostable films, even edible packaging being developed.
Wait, edible packaging? Like you can eat the box your bong came in?
Imagine. It sounds crazy, but it's already happening in some industries.
That's wild. But back to the bong world, how are these sustainable options being adopted?
It's still early, but there's definitely momentum. Consumers are demanding eco-friendly options, and businesses are starting to listen.
So more recycled cardboard, less plastic void fill, maybe even discounts for choosing sustainable options.
Exactly. It's a win-win for everyone, the planet, the businesses, and the consumers. But sustainable packaging is just one piece of the puzzle. We also have to consider the actual transportation.
Right, because how that bong gets from A to B matters. Ground transport, air freight, maybe even drones someday.
A lot of options. Ground is usually cheaper, but bumpier. Air is smoother and faster, but more expensive and less eco-friendly.
So it's a balancing act. Speed, cost, environmental impact.
You got it. A high-value bong going across the country might need air freight. A
Hmm.
local delivery, ground transport might be just fine.
Choosing the right tool for the job. But beyond just the mode of transport, what other innovations are happening in logistics that could impact bong shipping?
One exciting area is the development of smart logistics platforms. Think AI and machine learning, optimizing routes, tracking shipments in real time, even predicting delays.
So like having a virtual logistics manager, making sure everything runs smoothly.
Exactly. They consider weather, traffic, even loading dock availability at the destination.
It's amazing how tech is changing everything. But with all this automation, what happens to the human element? Are robots going to be packing and shipping bongs in the future?
That's a great question. Automation is definitely growing, but I don't think humans are going away completely.
Why not? Wouldn't robots be more efficient? Less likely to make mistakes?
Robots are great for repetitive tasks and precision, but when it comes to something delicate like a bong,
Hmm.
you still need human judgment. Think about inspecting for damage, making packing decisions, dealing with unexpected problems.
So it's about finding that balance between automation and human expertise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Robots do the heavy lifting, humans handle the nuances. It's a partnership. And speaking of partnerships, what about the relationship between the shipper and the customer? How can technology improve that?
Oh, that's a good point.
We're seeing more online tracking portals, automated notifications, even virtual reality experiences that let customers see their package moving through the system.
Whoa, VR for bong shipping, that's next level.
Right. It's not just a tracking number anymore. You can actually follow your bong on its journey. It builds trust and excitement.
Turning the shipping process from a black box into an interactive experience makes a big difference, especially when you're dealing with something as fragile and expensive as a bong.
Absolutely. It's about going beyond just a transaction, creating a more personal connection. That's what sets the best bong shippers apart.
Well said. This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I thought we'd be talking about bubble wrap, but we've ended up exploring supply chain resilience, sustainability, even the customer experience.
It just goes to show you never know where a deep dive will take you.
And for our listeners, we're not done yet. There's one final piece of this puzzle, a connection that might surprise you. We'll reveal it after a quick break, so don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey through the world of safe bong shipping.
We have. From bubble wrap to bioplastics, from AI logistics to, well, remember that cliffhanger we left you with?
Oh yeah, the unexpected connection. You've really been building that up.
Time for the big reveal. Safe bond shipping and organ transplantation.
Whoa, okay, that's not where I thought this was going. But I guess at the core, both involve getting something incredibly fragile and valuable where it needs to go.
Exactly. It's about more than just fragility, too. Think about the time pressure. A donated organ only has so long before,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, the clock is ticking. So are you saying bong shippers can learn something from how organs are transported?
Absolutely. We found some fascinating parallels in our research. Organ transplant networks use really sophisticated tracking systems, real-time communication, every step of the way.
So everyone's in the loop constantly.
Yep. Dedicated transport teams, special containers with temperature control, even backup plans for delays. Nothing is left to chance.
So it's like a well-oiled machine, everyone working together to make sure that organ gets where it needs to be.
Exactly. And there's a lot of data analysis, risk assessment.
Mm.
They even use predictive modeling to anticipate challenges.
Wow, that's a whole other level of sophistication. Most people probably don't even realize how much goes into it.
Right. It's a hidden world of logistics, technology, and expertise, all working behind the scenes.
And I thought I was being nerdy for getting excited about packing peanuts. But seriously, could bond shippers actually adopt some of those organ transport strategies?
Imagine a Bong shipping network with that same level of urgency, precision, and communication.
Yeah.
Real-time tracking, proactive risk management, maybe even specialized vehicles.
Okay, now I'm picturing a bong ambulance, sirens blaring, rushing a limited edition piece to its new owner. Uh-huh. Maybe not that extreme, but there's definitely inspiration to be found. The principles of chain of custody, temperature control, meticulous documentation, all those apply to Bong shipping too.
So it's not just about copying the tech. It's about adopting that same mindset, that commitment to making sure nothing goes wrong.
Exactly. It's about respecting the value of what you're shipping, whether it's a bong or something even more precious, and taking every possible step to ensure its safe arrival.
This has been such a mind-blowing conversation. We started talking about bubble wrap and ended up discussing organ transplants. Who knew bong shipping could be so deep?
It just goes to show you never know what you'll discover when you really dive into a topic.
And that's what the deep dive is all about. Uncovering the unexpected, exploring those hidden connections.
Exactly. So, to our listeners, we hope this has sparked your curiosity, inspired you to look deeper, ask more questions.
Because the world is full of fascinating stories, just waiting to be uncovered.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.